and welcome to Abu Dhabi. I'm Christina Millman. It's day 2 of Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week, a global initiative championed by the UAE government and backed by clean energy powerhouse Masdar. Over the coming week, we'll be looking at all the major issues around climate impact, biodiversity, and the role of renewables in powering the clean energy transition. Today, we're at the Atlantic Council Global Energy Forum, where one of the main topics is the energy transition, as the UAE prepares to host COP28 in Dubai later this year. As we move towards COP28 later this year, we must all focus on adapting to higher temperatures at the same time as we fight to keep that increase as low as we can. In Sharm el-Sheikh in 2022, at the very last minute, COP27 delegates agreed to uphold the Glasgow Pledge to keep global climate warming below 1.5 degrees. COP27 President Sameh Shoukry said, "We rose to the occasion, upheld our responsibilities, and undertook the important, decisive political decisions that millions around the world expect from us." But in the words of the UK's then climate czar, Alok Sharma, "I said in Glasgow that the pulse of 1.5 degrees was weak. Unfortunately, it remains on life support." As we head towards COP28 in Dubai, we still have no commitment on emissions peaking before 2025 and no promise to restrict coal production. With many regions battered by extreme weather events, huge-scale climate adaptation needs implementing. Infrastructure needs weatherproofing. Entire communities will need relocating. And we will all need climate-smart agriculture to future-proof our global food supply. Last year, the UAE's climate minister inaugurated an ambitious project to upcycle organic waste into food products. A pioneering homegrown startup based right here in Masdar City, feeding food waste to black soldier fly larvae to produce animal proteins and organic fertilizers. Indigenous populations and wildlife rely on our planet's oceans, rivers, forests, and jungles for survival, the same forests and oceans that absorb more than half of all carbon emissions. For all of us, the planet's biodiversity needs to be protected. Adapting to our changing planet, protecting our planet's biodiversity, transitioning to cleaner energy sources will require cooperation, effort, and investment around the world. Landon Derentz is Senior Director for Global Energy Security at the Atlantic Council Global Energy Center. He served at the U.S. Department of Energy, advising on world energy market developments. He helped to establish the Net Zero Producers Forum and also served as Director of Energy on the National Security Council and the National Economic Council at the White House. Welcome, Landon. Thank you for making time for us today. Okay, it's day 2 of the Atlantic Council Global Energy Forum. What are your key takeaways so far?
Well, let me say I'm thrilled to be back in Abu Dhabi for our 7th annual Global Energy Forum. It's been a great partnership here with ADSW, Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week. And the Global Energy Forum is the way we set the global energy agenda for the year forward. But the path forward is really predicated on, the consequence of 2022. Russia's invasion of Ukraine really elevated and vaulted up the energy security facets of the global energy system again, brought that to the front of the stage. And what we're really seeing is, that is now running in parallel with what's turning out to be a pretty consequential COP28 year and a climate year here. So I think what I'm drawing from the Global Energy Forum is you're seeing new partnerships forged as we look at addressing energy security and climate kind of in tandem, hopefully for a really impactful COP28 this December.
So you mentioned briefly the global stocktake. Looking ahead to COP28 and the results from that global stocktake, what do you think of the progress that we've made so far towards implementing the Paris Agreement?
I mean, the honest truth is we don't need a stocktake to know that we haven't met our emissions targets, right? And so I think that the nice part about that, the silver lining, and where I expect COP28 to head over this next year, is that we already can begin to put in motion the facets of action that can help us make up that gap. I think Dr. Sultan was here His Excellency was here yesterday to provide his inaugural address after being named COP28 President-designate, and that was clearly his message. We need action, and we need an inclusive process to lead to some substantial outcomes and bridging the gap to keeping 1.5 degrees alive.
And finally, and it's the difficult question, how do you think we manage to move everybody from commitment to action?
Yeah, you know, I think commitment to action begins with inclusivity. So what you saw in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt for COP27 was some facets of industry are now being included that weren't previously there. And I think, you know, there's a sentiment perhaps in some of the climate community that this could be challenging, and it will be challenging, but climate change is challenging itself. And so we can't waste time debating who should be there, so long as everybody's working really constructively towards the path of where we know we need to be. And let me tell you, when you harness the power of, for example, the industry, the energy, oil and gas industry, you're harnessing thousands, hundreds of thousands of engineers. These are people that are fixers. Let's hold them to task and see what we can accomplish in 2023.
Great, thank you very much.
It's great to be here.
Christian Bruch is President and CEO of Siemens Energy. And René Seyger is a Middle East-based managing partner at the international management consultancy Roland Berger. They're collaborating on a report which measures energy transition readiness. We're going to dive right into the findings of that report in just a sec, but first, a question for you, Christian Bruch of Siemens Energy. Siemens Energy is a big player in the energy sector. So what does that energy transition look like for you here in the Middle East and in the UAE specifically?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I have to say always the Middle East, and when I'm here, I always recognize it's a powerhouse in energy, right? It's today a key region for energy supply, and it will be in the future. And if I look on it, we also have to see that we only get to a new energy world by recognizing what we have today. This is a region today rich of hydrocarbons, important for the supply of the world. It's a region which has a massive potential in renewables, and can also really demonstrate on how do you get from a world today to a world tomorrow, and recognizing that you will need both for some amount of time. And I think this is the beauty of having such events in this region here. Differently to Europe, where I think you have a different challenge at the moment. You have high energy cost, you have a question on, I would call it energy resilience, in terms of availability of energy, where there's a much more fundamental question how this is going to look like. The two regions are going to be very different in the future. I think Europe will see high energy prices for a long time to come, and the Middle East will be a region with very competitive energy prices going forward. The good thing is that these are neighboring regions, so I think they are joined at the hip in terms of solving the problem of energy transition. And it will be a big question is how is industry allocating in what part of the regions, and what part of the energy can be transported from one region to the other. And yes, this region could be a key exporter of renewable energy through molecules, through hydrogen, through methanol, through ammonia. That is a big opportunity this region has. This region also has to continue to supply hydrocarbons for some time to come, and they have to find a way on how to make, for example, this hydrocarbon industry as effective as possible. Europe going to be an importer for that, but we also might see certain parts of a very energy-intensive industry moving from Europe to that region here. So that will be, I think, a very intense discussion over the next years to come, and this is why it is a particular good location and a good time to have such discussion here.
A bit of a change of gears now. I'd like to know more about this report. So I understand Roland Berger and Siemens Energy surveyed about 2,000 experts to come up with this Energy Transition Readiness Index. René, what more can you tell me about that?
Yeah, look, we all agree that the energy transition needs to happen. There is a vast majority of people. But the question is shifting. The question is shifting, how do we make it happen? How do we convert from talking, agreeing that it needs to happen, in doing it, ultimately? And that is not as easy said as done. That's where we need, basically, collaboration. Now, the Readiness Index shows very clearly that on the front of, do we all agree? We agree. But are we really ready to go? Do we know how to? There are really steps to go. Think about acceleration of renewables, as Christian said. When we think about also using the current grids which we have, think about energy efficiency, where we need to step up, because hydrocarbons are not going to go away. Think about the current grids which we have. Don't forget, think about Asia, think about Africa. Population will grow dramatically. Therefore, we need to accommodate. It's a transition going forward. And basically, we need to think about the supply chains. We all know that given some of the global turmoil, supply chains are shifting on the globe. How do we take this as an opportunity ultimately to reshape an industry in the next few years? But it is a call for action. The readiness is not ready enough to meet the targets, to meet the ambitions. And that's where I think the cooperation between Europe specifically and the Middle East in the energy flows, in building the industry, in changing some of the structure of the industry delivering it, offers excellent opportunity. And that is what the debate should be about.
So that report is not ready to publish yet. You're saying it will be public imminently. So spoiler alert. In one sentence, can you tell me what are the findings of the report?
The key findings is we need to cooperate. We need to accelerate in this cooperation with very concrete projects. The time that we discuss about the necessity to happen, to discuss world peace, that should be a bit over. It should be how do we shape cooperation to make it land, to make it happen. Great progress is being made. However, electrification will be by a factor 3, 5 or 10, depending where you look on the globe. How do we get that size, that sizing ultimately in place? That's going to be a challenge, and that's where we still need to step up.
Christian, in a recent interview that was published in the national newspaper, you called the energy transition, currently underway, the biggest investment program since the Industrial Revolution. Are you still sticking by that?
Absolutely, and I mean there's two messages with that, right, what I wanted to give. The one thing is it's an opportunity. We talk so much about threats, concerns, or whatever, challenges. It's all true, right? But at the end we have to say it's an opportunity. And there's a second element to it. Energy transition must have a business case. It must drive profitable business. Only then we will be able to do that. And if you want to accelerate, as René said, I mean, then we need to make sure that it's paying off. Private money goes into that. But if this is the situation, we can reinvent the industry. So it's a massive opportunity. It can create jobs. It can really help. But it will change a lot of things. And I also wanted to underline the serious amount of investment which has to go into this. We are still underestimating the size of the change we are up for. And I think this is also what the study actually reveals, right? I think as different as all the regions are, one thing I think we can already reveal that none of the region has the right perception of the reality. They're all overestimating how far they are down the road. So we are all far behind where we need to be. And this is why I think also these indexes and the report is so relevant. What you do not measure, you do not manage. And we need to put specifics really on the ground to actually get this progress. But it's an opportunity which can help to give people jobs and prosperity and so forth. But it comes with a massive amount of investment which cannot be overestimated.
Okay, you touched there on collaboration and the need for us to work together. This event, the Atlantic Council Global Energy Forum, is one of the kickoff events for Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week 2023. One of our themes is collaboration. I'd like this question for you, René. How important do you think alliances and partnerships are going to be as we chart this energy transition journey together?
They are essential. Without the partnership, we are changing a system. A system cannot be changed by one party only. Yes, we need the money, significant money. We need the technology. A lot of technologies are available. So we need acceleration deployment. We need industrialization, ultimately. We need offtake. We need this on a business case scale, big enough to have impact, but let's change gears a bit. Let's not try to strive for one global solution, because it will hamper us in the speed required. Let's cut it up and have the cooperation in chunks which are big enough, but still we can manage, we can muster. And for me, that is the next phase of the discussion, or actually the next phase of the action we should have.
Thank you so much for joining us. Christian Bruch from Siemens Energy and René Seyger from Roland Berger, the International Management Consultancy. Thanks. Reed Blakemore is a Deputy Director of the Atlantic Council Global Energy Center, where his work focuses on oil and gas markets, critical minerals, trade, and geopolitical risk in the context of the energy transition. He's a regular contributor to Bloomberg and to Al Jazeera, and he joins us now.
Thank you.
Welcome, Reed.
Great to be here.
First question, what are your priorities at this year's Atlantic Council Global Energy Forum?
So this year's Global Energy Forum is fortunately being held in what is about to be a transformational year for the UAE. So first and foremost, we're just happy to be back here in Abu Dhabi in person with our lively crowd. You know, the issues that we're really focusing on in the lead up to COP28 obviously is bridging COP27 to COP28 and understanding how we can build on that momentum that we saw, particularly in the alignment and of the global north and south around issues like energy access. Obviously, this has been a tumultuous year for global energy markets, so we're really thinking carefully about how we balance geopolitics and the energy trilemma. And then the third thing that I think deserves a lot more attention is we have a whole block of programming related to what we're calling net zero enablers, right? Those interesting technologies like hydrogen, stuff that gets paid less attention to, like the grid and interconnections, things like energy value chains. All of those pieces are necessary and have to be talked about if we want to have a successful road to COP28 and beyond in order to reach our climate goals.
Okay, what are the trends that you're seeing in the energy transition space?
I think increased scrutiny around energy supply chains is a theme that we've seen develop over the past year and is actually only likely to increase in temperature when we look out to next year and also the next few decades, really. Right now we're concentrated around, hey, what does our hydrocarbons value chain look like as folks consider how do we effectively get gas supplies to Asia when Europe is buying so much LNG at a premium. But in the future, as we become more dependent on renewable energy technologies, it's going to be all about those critical minerals and metals, right? And those are supply chains which see similar amounts of concentration, which need capacity building, and that's going to define the next era of energy geopolitics, in my opinion.
All right, how much closer would you say we are to a just and inclusive energy transition than we were at this time last year?
It's a hard question, and I think it's challenging to be optimistic at this moment, but there is optimism to be found, I think. As I mentioned, one of the features that I thought was really positive coming out of COP27 was you brought the global north and global south together in a strong fashion to have a serious conversation about energy access in the context of climate action. And that is the first step to building an inclusive energy transition, to thinking seriously about how you allow places like sub-Saharan Africa to access their resources for economic development, but also sustainable economic development. And while nascent, right, those are the early pieces of a just transition. So yes, the progress has to be faster, right? Yes, we have a long road to walk, but we're walking it. And I think that's a positive development that wasn't there just several years ago.
I'll take that.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all we have time for today, but you can catch all of the action live online at adsw.live, or you can join us on social media channels. The addresses are listed on screen. We'll see you again tomorrow, Monday, for another show. We'll be live from Abu Dhabi's National Exhibition Center, ADNEC, and we'll be charting the pathways to net zero. See you then.